How we doing? So all of you all know me. My name's Calais. I have a special guest. But today we got a couple of things we want to do, right? Blasphemy Day is coming up. Anybody's got a blasphemous joke? I checked in with him. He's good with the blasphemous joke. I sent it out. I checked in with him first. A blasphemous joke. Elliot is like cooking.
I have a blasphemous joke.
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay. It takes just a quick second, okay? So there's two preachers, and they're playing golf. First one gets up there. He looks down and he putts it. Goes right to the hole, just barely misses, and he goes, "God damn it! I missed." The second preacher goes, "Oh no, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't say that. You're gonna anger God. Don't do that. Don't do that." Second preacher gets up, hits it right away, hole in one, beautiful. Go to the next hole. First pastor gets up there, just barely misses. He goes, "God damn it, I missed again." Second pastor goes, "Oh no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You're gonna anger God. You're gonna anger God. Don't do that." Putts it right away. Get up to the third hole. First pastor gets up there, hits it. It's going right towards it. He gets real excited, and it just barely misses. And he goes, "God damn it, missed!" And the clouds come out of nowhere, and a lightning bolt strikes the second preacher dead. And all of a sudden, you hear from the clouds, "God damn it, I missed."
What's wrong? Other blasphemous jokes. No, yes? Yeah, you got one? All right, so since most of us know each other, we have all seen each other's faces. There are no new faces this time. Except Elliot! Come here for a sec. So Elliot has a bunch of things that he does, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit, because for me, you're a YouTube celebrity.
That's something. That's kind.
Okay.
I'll send you that $5.
Yeah, so one of the things I've done for a few years now is I'm a host on the longest running atheist call-in show, The Atheist Experience. So I've done that for a few years. I've worked with a bunch of other groups online, Atheist Republic, Freedom from Religion, Recovering from Religion, Secular Therapy Project, and then a bunch of these groups too. So I've hung out with Sunday Assembly. I was hanging out earlier with Gary and Calais. We were talking about humanism and emotions and stuff. We were hanging out just the other day with Dave Warnock and a bunch of those guys, and I'm always over at Stephen and George's house bugging the crap out of them. So yeah, I kind of hang around in a bunch of these spaces.
Yes, and you are about to?
Oh, so we are working on a new organization that is going to connect and support atheists, secularists, and humanists in the greater Nashville area. So that's what we're working on over the next few months, and going to get some really cool events coming up. So I'm sure some of y'all know about NanoCon, so we're excited for that again. And yeah, we got some cool things working.
Keep coming and look him up. Look him up. He's pretty special. Thank you.
You are online.
Oh, if you want to find me online, my name is Secular Rarity, and then you'll see my
Cute. Gary, you want to do a plug-in for what you do on the YouTube world?
Sure. I've got a small.
You get to lean on me.
I've got a small YouTube channel that I started not long ago. Basically talking about my deconstruction and then sharing the space with some other people. Some of them are believers, some of them are non-believers, but the channel's called Time and Sand. And then also we have a local group where we try to engage believers and challenge their thinking and ask them what they believe and why. And that group is called the Conversation Coalition. So we try to bring people together and explore ideas and help develop some critical thinking skills. And
so recently you did something crazy. What was that?
Oh, well, it wasn't so much crazy, more out of necessity. We so in the Conversation Coalition for the past year, we've had a reasonably solid group of Christians that would engage with us, and eventually they got tired of hearing their points hammered and dismantled, and so they lost interest. So, in an effort to find a fresh batch of Christians, I put out on Facebook in Hit Mount Juliet, hey, is there any Christians out here that would be interested in having conversations with non-believers, respectful, cordial conversations, but would you be interested in seeing how our worldviews oppose one another? And surprisingly, it got 400 or 500, likes and comments.
Within a
and
week.
People showing interest. And then, a handful of people showed up. We had some good conversation, made some new friends. And so I plan on continuing that and just meeting for coffee or a sandwich with just random people and saying, hey, so I'm Gary, you're John. Let's talk about what we believe and why. And so
And your
far,
T-shirt does an invitation. What does it say?
Oh, the one I had on this morning? So this morning I had on a T-shirt that said, I'm an atheist, debate anyone? And then that's also the reason why I have this on my forearm, because I want, it's the atheist logo with the DNA circle around it, but I intentionally didn't hide that because I want it to serve as an invitation. I want somebody to ask me about it, and especially if they're opposed to, or if they feel like I should believe in their God, I want to invite the conversation. So I'm definitely here for it. So
if you know someone, look them up and hook them up.
Yeah, we're here for it. So
Nice.
We'll help them think about things.
It's not humble, it's very professional.
It is well done. Come talk a little bit about Upbeat Atheists.
I would say some.
It's okay when you get up there. Yes, Larry.
There's a group in Murfreesboro, Zone Rods.
Yeah, I was going to call Rod next. Rod, come on up for a sec. Yeah, it's you, sir.
I just hope you don't forget about my video.
No, we won't. We won't.
He's going to sing first, right?
No, we're going to do some introductions.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Rod does videos. Like he used to make documentaries in his previous life, movies. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Made one.
Yeah, made one, and now he's putting all the stuff that's happening. He invites all a bunch of people, and he is almost a different person when it comes on TV.
Yes, many times I am a nun.
He's the cussing nun. God damn it. He's the cussing nun, and he's a loving, super loving husband to Trish. Yes.
The best woman in America right there.
Yeah, and his 80% of his love and heart and energy goes to loving Trish, and I love him for that.
That's right.
And then he puts all the little stuff together, so we are thankful.
And then don't forget the benevolent friends.
Yes, he's not here. So some of you remember Darren.
Yeah.
Darren has put a little group together in Murfreesboro.
And I went to the first meeting, and it's a fun bunch of people. It's very small. Remember, we were like 4 people. but Darren, if I'm a good judge of character, he's a star.
He's great.
I love him.
He's my, I call him my husband, wife. Oh. So all the stuff that I wish my wife tells me in my struggles, looking for a job, he somehow seemed to come up with it. He will say it, and I just thank you, Dad. I need to hear it, and then you seem to be the one saying it, because spouses usually are busy doing other things, and he seemed to be in a place where he could echo it back to me. So
And it's in the meetups. It's called Benevolent Friends. It's in the
Yes.
meetups. Benevolent Friends.
And the T-shirt is cool.
Every one of you there. Oh, there's going to be punishments.
Yes. So he does a cussing nut. So look him up. All right. What else we got? So, anybody got a blasphemy joke?
I heard that the Catholics have developed a new fat-free communion wafer. Did you hear that? It's called I Can't Believe It's Not Jesus.
From the Reverend. Nice. Okay, so this just doesn't magically happen. Like Rod does a lot of work, Steve does a lot of work, Steven does a lot of work, Georgia does a lot of work, my friend Jared does a lot of work. So a bunch of us do meet weekly on a Zoom, second Friday, however, we go eat somewhere. We found Osh recently to go Uzbekistan restaurant. We just have lunch and just chit chat, connect more. That's all it is. So I have started another third Saturdays, a support group, literally a support group. All the rules of a support group. Like we don't discuss it. What happens there happens there. To help you tell your story as personal as it can get. So it doesn't run you. You run the story. That's the place for support groups. So that went really well last time. I was surprised how well it went. What else? What else are we doing? What else do we do? So those are the few things. So we're still looking for things that you want to do. Like I know you have a group in your church, secular, agnostic questioning group. Do you not?
We do have a group called the Skeptics and Seekers, which has been around for a while, and it is a group of people that.
Come on up here, Brandon. We can just
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. It's people that come to our church either looking to, they may be deconstructing their Christianity, but they may still feel that they believe in God, and they have questions that they want to try to explore openly and freely. And so that is a place for them. Also, it's a place for people that may say, I want to be, I heard a conversation earlier talking about community that's found in religious groups, and sometimes if you're not in a religious group, you may not feel like you have community. And I would actually say that a lot of churches promise a lot more community than they actually offer, and community can be hard to find in a church too. But we have had members, or I won't say members of our church, because they may not have chosen to join because they may not be sure they believe in God, but they still are drawn to certain aspects of our way of being in the world or our ethics, and so they will also be a part of that group.
Nice.
So,
Nice. Thank you.
Sure.
Sweet. So it's happening. 30% of our population. That's a lot of people. 30% is like 80 million, I think. So they're out there. Keep looking for them. So we'll have a song, and then we have a moment of humanism, and Rod put a little thing together. So we'll have a song. We'll let him do his piece so he can get ready, and then we will have you speak. Okay?
All right. And I guess before I do this, I'll tell you my 2 cents worth about let's see. Oh, there we go. The atheist. That's my little tagline. And it's just a YouTube channel. It's a bunch of songs I've written over the years. Some of them are scathing rebukes of various beliefs, and some of them are trying to find a way that everybody can kind of get along. So I usually open up this meeting like this with some kind of a song that supports the topic of the day. This one I happened to do not long ago, and I think it fits the occasion very well. I'm sure you'll recognize it if you've been on the YouTube channel. In the year of Project 2025, democracy will not survive. Freedoms will spiral in a steep nosedive, and we'll find. In the year of Project 2025, with Christian nationalism in overdrive, 900 pages of an odious plan will become the law of the land. Oh no. Year of Project 2025, reproductive rights will all be deprived. Not even myth of Christendom sent in the mail. Women forced to live out the handmaid's tale. In the year of Project 2025, Levitical law will be revived for all our LGBTQIA friends. It'll be the dark ages again. Oh no. The year of Project 2025, 2025. Public schools go under the knife. You know that we can all expect to see a Department of Education ectomy. In the year of Project 2025, civil service gets reclassified. Your job will no longer exist unless you are a red team loyalist. Oh no. In the year of Project 2025, the EPA will meet its demise. Who needs clean air or pristine lake when we can give the one percenters another tax break? In the year of Project 2025, if you're not a Christian and you're not white, better find a place where you can disappear, 'cause you won't be welcome here, oh no. Now you know what's on the line. I hope a chill ran down your spine. But don't despair, don't give up hope. You've got a secret weapon, the power of the vote. Oh yeah.
Very nice, very nice. So we usually do a moment of humanism, and we have a little effort put together, sweet effort put together.
You're watching the Humanist Association of Middle Tennessee. Okay, gang, here's something we're all guilty of over and over again. Somebody tells you, well, we've got 10 commandments, and you say, well, we've got 10 commitments, and they say, what are your 10 commitments? And you go, I think one of them is humility. Nobody has those memorized. Well, today I'm going to give you an easy ABCs of memorizing these things. First, I put them all in alphabetical order, and then I figured out there's patterns that will help us. So here's the ABCs of learning the 10 commitments easily. Now, you got to do a few refreshers, once or twice a week, read them. Once or twice a week, go through the exercise. So here's how we do it. You got AC. That's what started. Air conditioner. AC. And that means altruism. And C is critical thinking. C. AC. Then there are 3 E's. Empathy. No, not entertainment. I always want to think just the environmentalism and environmental awareness. EE, and then the ET, which is ethics. ET, phone home. Ethics, ethical thinking. Okay? Did I say critical thinking? Anyway, ethics. Oh, and then after that, there's a G and an H, global awareness, and an H, humility. That's a good one. And then there's P. PQRS. PRS. There's PRS of the last 3. P, which is, what the hell is P? P. Shit, I don't remember. P. Oh, P is peace. Peace and social justice. P. R is responsibility, and S is what are you? You're helping other people. You're social shit. I don't remember what S is either. Hang on. I'm gonna run over here. I've got this laying down right over here. And just go over here, pick up this copy of. Here, see. Here it is. Here. Yeah. Okay. Here it is. Here it is. S is service and participation. So I'm going to go through them quickly. So it's AC, which is altruism and critical thinking. See how terrible I am at this? EEE. See, I got a 71-year-old brain. I can't remember shit anymore. EEE, which is empathy, environmental awareness, and ethical Ethical what? What's wrong with me? Ethical development. There you go. Ethical development. ED. Ethical development. ED. Okay. And then the next one down, there's a G, which is global awareness, and H, which is humility. Then there's P, peace and social justice. R, responsibility, and S. And I always forget that one. Service, and participation. So if I haven't totally confused you with this, but this shows you that even though I've been studying this all morning, I can't keep it in my head. So like I said, if you'll just, read this to yourself about once a day, then you'll have these in your head. Now let me ask you to please make a commitment. Commit to learning this so we don't look like a bunch of dumbasses out there, okay? All right. See ya.
Nice job. How much time did you put in that?
You saw how long it took.
No. How much time did you put in that?
Well, that took about an hour and a half because I had to make your graphics. Maybe 2.
Yeah. Keep at it. Okay. Nice. So today's topic is kind of controversial. So the song and all of it. Yet, Brandon is a neighbor of mine, and we've seen each other. The children go to the same school, and I saw Brandon on TV. That's when I'm like, I've got to become friends with him, and reached out intentionally. So there was a protest, no? Was it a protest?
Yes, I don't remember what was. I don't remember what. I think probably that was pre-covenant shooting.
Yes.
Because before the covenant shooting, a few months before that, the legislature had started trying to pass lots and lots of anti-LGBTQ laws, and I think we were up there protesting, and I think somebody asked me a question, and I think I was on TV. I think that's where you saw me.
So I know enough because I've done LGBTQ, like the 3 questions I talk about. What's good? Where do you struggle? What do you wish other people know? In class. And I also know that if they're not able to sit with it, the suicide rate is so high in that community. So teaching sociology, I bring it up, and then when he said he's standing up there, I got to be his ally. I do to my students that I will be his ally to just let him know I'm here, I see you, and I appreciate you. So that's how we became friends. He still walks down the streetwalker, right? Isn't that what my wife calls him?
I ran. She calls me a streetwalker.
That's
not that kind of streetwalker, but yes, I am the streetwalker. Sometimes a runner. Yeah.
So we've been talking about what's happening in the Christian world and the pull and drag with. So Rod again put together 2 minutes, right?
Right.
A 2 minutes video of like some things to think about, and then think with you.
Okay.
That's the idea behind. We get to ask questions. You can share what you know, and we'll share wherever. We'll see that little video. It's a 2 minute video.
Sure.
And then, show it.
Great.
Everyone seems to be talking about Christian nationalism these days. Politicians, preachers, pundits, scholars, everyone has something to say about this issue. Some of them are proudly wearing the label, while others are writing books to denounce the movement. One book is by Andrew Whitehead and Samuel Perry. Both of them are professors of sociology. In it, they define Christian nationalism as the belief that America has been and should always be distinctively Christian from top to bottom. Christian nationalists may appear on the outside to be all about Christianity, with their flags and crosses and signs, but deeper down, their actual goal is not Christianity. Christianity is just a device, a tool that they use to achieve their real goal, which is about cultural and political power. They talk very little about a life with God, but a lot about all the blessings they expect to get from God for themselves and for their country. And here's the interesting part. When you actually read and listen to Christian nationalists, they don't hide this fact. They talk very openly about using Christian faith or using Christian values or using the Bible or even using Jesus to get what they really want, which is a country that looks more like themselves. It guarantees God's blessing for our whole nation if we would just put the right people in power and pass the right biblical laws. And that's why millions of American Christians are eagerly embracing Christian nationalism. But you need to remember this. Any message in which Jesus is the means but not the goal is not true Christianity. It's idolatry. And that's why Christian nationalism may claim it's trying to make America more Christian, when in fact, it's doing exactly the opposite.
So that's one perspective. All of us have our own perspective.
And I don't know who made that video. I've never seen that person.
I've seen him the long version, and Rod kind of to get us to like a little platform where we're coming from and ask questions. And so tell us your experience. You can sit on this.
Okay, sure.
I sit with you. What is your experience of the world? Because you're in the Christian world and you're a leader in the world.
Yeah, and if you all have questions, feel free to ask me. Also, Calais said he made you promise not to attack me when I came, but trust me, I can take whatever you want to ask me. So I am, but I will tell you this too. But I say that, but as I say that, I will also say that I am probably not the best Christian for you to debate, because I'm not really a Christian apologist, so to speak. There are strains of Christians and Christianity that are very much into apologetics and defending the faith and trying to defend it rationally. That's not to say I don't think there are ways to have those arguments, but that is really not the place I come from in my own journey of faith. It's kind of not how I was raised as a Christian to begin with, but it also would not work for me as a form of, to me, that would almost be a form of idolatry as well. To think that I could put God in a box like that. If I truly believe there is a God, if I'm somebody that claims that and claims that there is something beyond me that is somewhat ineffable, that I sense but can't totally speak to, then for me to be able to say in an apologetic form that I absolutely know this thing to be true, that is not how I understand my faith. In fact, I think the word faith has been distorted often in our culture. It's come to mean assent to a dogmatic position, basically. Whereas I think if you look at people that are drawn to any kind of spirituality, but those especially in the long line of the Christian tradition that are the true mystics and the true people that are the spiritual guides of throughout history, and have really pointed the way beyond many of the worst impulses of Christian action and Christian behavior. I think those persons also, do not operate in that apologetic sense. They operate in more the space of mystery.
But you ended up being a minister. You went to seminary. How'd you do that?
I did. Well, I went to seminary. I actually went to divinity school, which is slightly different than seminary, because I went to Vanderbilt Divinity School, which is it is a Christian institution technically. I mean, it's meant to be an ecumenical space, but it also is not affiliated with any particular denomination. It also creates a lot of space for persons that are interested in, let's say, probably what would be some of your humanist values, the service to the world, of care for others, of seeing humans as humans. There are people that go to the divinity school that I went to that may not claim a faith rooted in theism per se, but are still feeling called to some kind of connection with humans on what they might still term a spiritual level in some way. And so so it's kind of an interesting place for me to go to school because it's, in fact, one of my best friends in seminary was a Unitarian Universalist, and she came down here from the Northeast to go to Vanderbilt because she said, I wanted to go somewhere where people were a little more spiritual, because she said up in the Northeast, all the Unitarian Universalists, they're just all rational atheists, which is fine. She's like, I love them, but she's like, I've got this spiritual impulse, and I wanted to be around. And I said, well, that's funny, Shay, because around here, if you come from the South and you go to Vanderbilt, everybody thinks you're a heretic. And so everybody says, oh, don't go to school there because then you're going to lose your faith, or you're going to lose, you're going to lose that connection. You're going to be convinced out of your faith. And I've wrestled with my faith a lot. I was raised United Methodist, and I'm still United Methodist today. And I don't know if you know anything about United Methodism, but we're kind of a broad range of people. And there are very traditionalist Methodists, there are very quote-unquote liberal Methodists, and everything in between. And I was raised in a household that believed in much more open thought and thinking about theology and having open discussions. And when it came time for me to go through confirmation when I was growing up in the church, I said to my mom, I don't know that I'm ready to join. And she said, well, you don't have to if you don't want to. You don't have to claim anything you don't believe. So I chose to join at that time, and I continue to lean into it. But there are times that I've really struggled, and especially because I've seen the harm that Christians and Christianity often does, the harm that is done in the name of Christianity, and especially in the name of really strong dogmatic Christianity that claims to have a stranglehold on the absolute truth that everybody has to fall in line with. And I don't even just mean and that's where we're getting to with the Christian nationalism, is it's not even people that go to our church have to fall in line lockstep. It's that everybody has to fall in line lockstep. And to me, that is a violation from where I've come to understand my faith in God. That is the violation of what I would call the imago Dei in someone, or the image of God in someone, or what you might just say is somebody's human value. And Christian nationalists right now are trying to short circuit our ability to be either free thinkers or free feelers or spiritualists of any kind, other than what they believe is the way to act, the way to be, and the way that society should be controlled.
Do they come to you?
Who, Christian nationalists?
Yeah.
To my church,
Yeah.
or to other places?
In your church.
It's interesting. I have served primarily in churches that I would say are somewhere on the moderate spectrum to the more progressive side of United Methodism. So I encounter fewer people, at least, that think they are thinking in a nationalist way. Now, in some of the parishioners I have had in the past have kind of had some tendencies in that direction, especially when it has come to things like, I can think in terms of anytime after the aftermath of 9/11, people being very, very afraid of Muslims in general, and people targeting Muslims and coming to me and saying, we need to talk more about the danger that this poses to. And I understood what they were saying. There's a fundamentalist danger underneath here, but I kind of had to say to them, but you're kind of, at the same time, you're bringing your own sort of fundamentalist fear in this moment. And we have to remember that the Muslim population is huge, billions of people with many different stripes even within that. And so even when we talk about Christianity, I never talk about Christianity. I always say there are Christianities. There are so many different ways that people put Christianity on the ground, just like there are different ways to put atheism on the ground. For instance, I loved the song that we had a few minutes ago. I mean, I was jiving with it. It fits my personal feelings. And yet, I have a member of my family who's an atheist, who is who's a big old MAGA person. No, who's a big old MAGA person. Would have hated that song. And I was thinking, I'm so glad to be in a room full of humanists, people that care about humans and aren't just atheists, that in my opinion, this person sometimes doesn't care enough about humans, And so, so it's just a reminder that all strains of thought, whether they're based in what we call rationality or what I might call faith, and something that, in my opinion, faith is, and I'm sure you agree with me, it is irrational. I mean, it's not something that I claim first and foremost because I agree with it rationally. It's something that I have had experiences that continue to say to me that I believe that there is a divine presence. But I think of that in very different ways than probably some other Christians that you have encountered.
How do you deal with this atheist MAGA person?
How do I do? We talk. We just talk. I mean, we're
so confusing. It's like I'm going through distance.
Well, since we're here to talk about Christian nationalism, I would actually say that, in this person, I would not say is a nationalist necessarily, but they are an atheist and they are kind of, they're MAGA-ish, yes. But when it comes to, nationalism in general and Christian nationalism, it's not even really, as this video said, it's not really, in my opinion, a form of Christianity so much as a form of power grabbing. And I would say this person uses his rational thinking in much the same way. So, but
yeah, y'all ask some questions.
So I love this topic, Christian nationalism. It's definitely something that comes up a lot in the stuff that I do. I'm a huge fan of the idea of Christians Against Christian Nationalism. That's actually a nonprofit organization. I love them. So I love where you're coming from. And one of the things that I have wondered about is, what can we do on the atheist side, on the secular side, the humanist side, that non-religious, we're not a church type side, to be, I guess, more obviously welcoming to those believers, because I think that partnership is critical, and we're not going to be able to push back against a lot of this Project 2025 type stuff unless we have that partnership.
Right.
So what can we, on the openly atheist, openly we don't like your church type stuff, how do we get more people like you, Brandon, to join us?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, I think what a lot of Christians are looking for today, and it's interesting. I don't come from the quote unquote evangelical side of Christianity. You wouldn't call me, although I think that term's debated, but what we use by that term today, it means something very specific kind of very conservative Christian, typically, and very demonstrative about their faith. I think a lot of Christians, even some evangelicals, feel like they don't have a home right now. I've been listening to people and reading people that I profoundly disagree with in terms of their theology and also their opinion on many things in the world. People like Russell Moore. I don't know if y'all know Russell Moore. He was the president of I think it's called the Ethics and Liberty National Ethics, what is it called? Anyway, it's with the Southern Baptist Church, and he was the president of their Liberty and Ethics wing. And he has left the Southern Baptist Church because he spoke out strongly against Trump leading up to 2016. And it eventually made him such persona non grata within the evangelical world and the extreme right-wing Christian world that is so merged with politics, and I don't just mean politics, but a certain kind of partisanship, that he kind of feels homeless now. And he and other very conservative people that live out in the area where we live, people like David French, are writing books together and talking about the fact that, you know what, we've lost something. We have lost a focus on the common good. And they say that, Christianity, in its best iteration, when it's doing what it's supposed to, and if you're following anything about what Jesus demonstrated, would have had to have been about common good. And I think what any people that are interested in and love the common good, no matter what perspective they come from, no matter how they get there, I think people are hungry right now to get back to the common good. And I think there are a lot of people, in fact, I'm reading this book, not because I really wanted to read it, but I'm reading it because I'm going to go with a group of clergy, of Methodist clergy, to a talk at, I think it's at Lipscomb University, given by these people, by Russell Moore and David French and some of them. They've written a book called The After Party that I'm reading right now. And it's a book targeted at Christians, but it's talking about the different ways that people may be feeling right now, and the ways that they might be better in terms of their politics and have a more, in their mind, a more Jesus-centered politic. And one of the way they divide people into 4 categories, and I'm just reading it, so I can't remember all of them, but basically it's like a combatant and a disciple and an exhausted. But they call this one group the exhausted. And they say, this is the majority of people right now. That
But
people
why,
are
even
exhausted.
use the word, even these people feel homeless.
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
I'm confused by it.
Well, I think it's because if you think about what's happening right now in the culture, as this video demonstrated, and I brought a copy of what's on that goldenrod sheet there. If anybody wants to see it later, it's actually a resolution against Christian nationalism that me and some of my colleagues crafted to pass at our United Methodist annual conference, to say to our churches, to give cover to our churches to talk about this. And we were like, if we can get everybody to vote for this, then it gives our bishop cover, it gives everybody cover to talk about this. And it passed with like 85-90% of the vote.
Wow.
So anyway, but I think the reason people feel homeless right now, a lot of Christians feel homeless that are true Christians, is because there's almost a form of, and I hate to say that, I shouldn't say it like that, true Christians. I'm not going to discard anybody as a Christian. I think that's something a lot of times people like to do. They like to take the people they disagree with and say those aren't the real. No,
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But I think there are a type of Christian right now that look at other Christians and say, are they really getting it right? When they are so worried about winning a culture war, and at the same time, often these people aren't even really engaged with the church. And that's one of the things Russell Moore starts to write about. He said what he used to think was going to happen to the church was he thought like a lot of good conservative Christians thought, Christianity's dying, it's going to die in our culture, and it's going to go away and all this stuff. And that hurt him. Probably wouldn't hurt you all at all, but it hurt him a lot. It really bothered him. But he said what he never saw coming was, he said, going to church died. Being engaged with the church community died. But saying you're still a Christian and claiming that identity and then putting all sorts of other stuff in it didn't die. And he said that's really where we're getting into a dangerous place. Because what's happening is you're taking Christian rhetoric and you're taking notions of God and you're combining them with notions of nation, with notions of certain kinds of people, and it becomes a toxic mixture that can be abused, and it has been abused by Christianity many, many times in many forms. And one of the amazing things that happened in this country, I think, is that our founders weren't really, most of the founders of this country weren't really Christians in the way we think of them today. And certainly not those that want to say we're a Christian nation. Most of them were deists. And actually, as a faithful Christian, I kind of struggle with deism a little bit. It's a little too hands-off for me. But I think one of the beautiful things about the fact that so many of them were deists was it opened this space for them to say, there's room beyond dogmatic thinking, that kind of stuff. And what you have right now is you have politics parading as Christianity. And that is not to say that a true kind of Christianity couldn't also come along and be a politic. But I think that what's going on with the current form of Christian nationalism is it's actually a politic, simply a politic in Christian clothing, so to speak. And it's hard to, in some ways it's hard to attack that way through a Christian lens, because just like it's hard to convince somebody that they should sort of have a problem with Donald Trump, at least have a problem with the fact that he, seems to have very few morals. And you're like, if you're a Christian, how you used to decry other presidents that didn't have morals, and here this is going on. So what's going on? Why can you not at least be critical about this person? I think the same thing happens in general with Christian nationalism. It becomes something you can't attack. It's like you say to somebody, well, this isn't how Jesus would act, or this isn't,
What do they say?
And, well, actually, it's interesting. There are pastors now that it's been going. This is another thing that's been going around in evangelical circles that I found fascinating. Pastors talking about the fact that a lot of them have been trying to preach on the Beatitudes. So like whereas you have the 10 Commandments, and a lot of very dogmatic Christians might want to put up a 10 Commandments somewhere. I would much rather put up the Beatitudes if we're going to put up something. Put Jesus' Sermon on the Mount up there. That'd be better. And then maybe choose from the book of Luke where he doesn't even talk about the poor in spirit, but he just simply talks about the poor. Because Luke, as Luke wrote the story, Luke was concerned with the on the ground stuff Jesus was dealing with. Matthew was more concerned with the spiritual side. Both are valid, but hey, take the Lucan Beatitudes and put them up there. But anyway, evangelical Christians, preachers, have been trying to preach the Beatitudes to their congregations, and their parishioners come up to them and say, "Where did you get that liberal claptrap?"
Ooh.
And they're like, "It's what Jesus said." and then so when they go back and forth, what comes out in those conversations is, "Yeah, but that's too weak for today. Like that doesn't work." And especially, and this is how you know it's a politic, because it's basically like, well, those liberals are out there and they're doing everything they can to attack us, to take us down. And so that's too weak. We can't go and turn the other cheek. We can't go do these things. We can't say the meek will inherit the earth. We've got to take the damn earth and we've got to make it ours. And that's what God would want us to do. That's a dangerous, but very powerful way to think, especially if you think of yourself as ordained by God. That's one of the beautiful things, even if you don't subscribe to Christianity as a religion or as a faith. I think that's one of the beautiful things about Christianity and the Christian story that is a bit different, is that whenever, at least in the text, when people try to put the label of God on Jesus, he always throws it away. Now the church comes along later and makes Jesus God, and we can have debates about that. And I'm still a Trinitarian Christian, and I can accept that, and I do believe that. But I believe also it was something that the church developed over time to understand how it is that Jesus embodied something about the divine. But at the very core, the Jesus story was Jesus fighting against religious fundamentalism, and was Jesus also throwing off notions of power. So he had a group of people that he banded together, and I'm going to be preaching about this some to my congregation in a few weeks as we come up on the election. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the party of Jesus. And Jesus had these 12 followers, and yet he had Simon the Zealot, who was zealous for the political liberation of the Jews and for the overthrow of Rome. And then, and the Gospels are very clear to tell us their political designations, right? Simon the Zealot, and then the tax collector, right? Matthew the tax collector, who would have been a lackey for Rome and doing Rome's bidding, and they're here together. And you've got all these other people, the sons of thunder that want the place at the right and left hand of God when Jesus takes power and all this stuff. Jesus is always throwing off power. Jesus is always decrying the notion that power over others is the way to go. And that is actually also what I think is the message of the cross. Not so much a salvation that is imputed upon you. It's really more, it was Jesus confronting the powers of this world and even submitting to them. And then Christianity says, and yet it didn't win. And yet it didn't work.
So do you worry somebody might hurt you?
Yes. I mean, I don't think about it so actively, but especially being in our church, I serve a church that is what's called a reconciling ministries church, and in the United Methodist tradition, there are churches that are part of the Reconciling Ministries Network, which is fully affirming of the LGBTQ community and has been fighting for full rights for LGBTQ persons, not just within the culture, but within our church, because our church, as all bodies of people are, is imperfect. And for a long, long time, we have had restrictions on ordaining queer clergy and also on affirming any queer relationships. And so our church has been affiliated with the movement to do away with those restrictions within the church. And in fact, I don't know if you probably don't follow anything about Methodism, but it's been in the news some lately. And we actually knocked down those. Those restrictions this year, and there's been a lot of stuff going on in our churches as we sort of split, as we fight, but also as somebody that gets out, and I do rabble-rouse sometimes in affirmation of queer folks, but also I go down to the Capitol about gun violence. I go down to the Capitol about all of these terrible things that are going on right now in our state legislature that is trying to enact Christian national. I mean, I was up there a few months ago. I guess it was last year in the spring during all the covenant stuff, and they were talking about Viktor Orban and passed a resolution to honor him. And that is Christian nationalism right there, because he is a Christian nationalism in the European context. And it's this need to hold on to power because it feels like there's a threat that is going to take away their way of life. And I do sometimes fear a little bit for my safety, because I'm aware of that, and we're aware of that at our church too. And one of my colleagues serves another church in the Green Hills area that's also very affirming and very, very vocal. And they've had bricks thrown through their windows in the last year.
Wow.
They've had other things like that happen. So they've had people show up and videotape them surreptitiously and put it on YouTube to get a lot of hate spewed at them and things like that. So you can definitely find yourself in the crosshairs as a Christian that is also trying to push for more openness anyway.
So kind of in that vein, I think a very prevalent thrust of a lot of the Christian nationalism that we're seeing is, again, anti-LGBTQ, very patriarchal, misogynistic type, and I have been seeing over the last handful of years, it seems to me pretty much all of the major denominations in Christianity in the United States have had votes. It's been pretty big. The Presbyterians are fighting, the Baptists. Everybody has been having these votes, and some are going the way of the Methodists, some are going the way of the Baptists. Okay. Do you feel that focus on affirming and supporting LGBTQ individuals is a good inroad into kind of combating that misogyny and patriarchal kind of structure in the Christian narrative? It's like, I think there is a plausible reading of a lot of, again, not a believer, but I think there is a plausible reading of Jesus's message and Jesus's actions that is very much a breakdown of that patriarchal structure. And I was just wondering if you found that to be a successful inroad with kind of maybe breaking that shell overall of that Christian nationalism.
I think it's one of the inroads, and it depends on where you are in your journey and where a particular group of people is in their journey. So first of all, I struggle with this a lot, thinking about if Christianity has been such a big part of the problem. And again, I believe in Christianities. I think Christianity gets put on the ground in lots of different ways. But in general, Christianity has been one of the powers across the world for a long time, and it has done a lot of harm. And I've seen a lot of the ways it's traumatized people. And so there's a part of me that, and this is where I've wrestled with my own faith, that I've wrestled with that quote by the great womanist Audre Lorde, who said, "The master's tools cannot dismantle the master's house." And I've wondered, that's why I struggled for a lot. Do I want to continue to claim Christianity? Because is it just a problem? Is it just a problem? But I could not separate myself from being Christian as much as I tried. Or I didn't try, as much as I allowed myself the space to. And not out of a dogmatism, just out of it works for me. It really does. It fits me, and it speaks to my life. But so I said I'm going to be somebody, though, that in my tradition I fight for what I believe is right, and I fight for human dignity, and I fight for the Imago Dei in everyone, all of that. Now, in my context, in the United Methodist context, yes, it's a great inroad. If you take, there was I don't know if has anybody ever heard Phyllis Tickle, the name Phyllis Tickle? She was a very interesting woman. She was a lay theologian she actually grew up north of Memphis and lived in Memphis almost her whole life. But she became well known as, she was an artist, she was an academic and ran an art, was the dean of an art school early on in Memphis, but then she got into publishing. And she was a devout Episcopal. And she eventually ended up in the world of Christian publishing and was one of the biggest Christian publishers in the world for a while. But anyway, she was a very mystical person, very open-minded person, a true explorer and seeker. And in the last years of her life, which were between the early 2000s to the mid 2000 teens, she became very, very interested in the trajectory of the Western church, of Western Christianity, and where it might be going and where it had been, and all of this kind of stuff. And
when you say Western, you mean American?
What I mean is
England is a different.
Actually, it's any church that came through the Western traditions that split off from the Eastern traditions. So at the Great Schism in the 1000s, when the East broke off from the West, Christianity went in two very different directions. If you go in an Eastern Orthodox church today, you will find that it has very different focuses than a Western church. Western churches were a lot about the sin, the death, and the cross, and the eternal punishment. Whereas Eastern Orthodoxy, their focus is Easter. Their focus is becoming more like God. It's actually called theosis. It's like that, so like a lot of Western Christians don't even know what to make of Eastern Christians. One of the interesting things about being Methodist, side note, is that Wesley, the founder of Methodism, was highly interested in Eastern Orthodoxy as well. So he mixed the two streams quite a bit and recaptured some of Eastern thinking. But anyway, Phyllis Tickle talked a lot about what she thought were hinge times in Western Christian culture, and that it happened across four times. But she said we were going through a current hinge time right now, and what she thought was that we had started poking holes in the things that had held authority in Christianity, starting with in the 1800s with the Civil War. So in other words, to your question that you asked a few minutes ago, what she believed was happening is that in Christianity, the current authority was Scripture after the Protestant Reformation in the Western world. And so Luther said, if you can get back to what the Scripture says, we'll all believe the right thing and we'll all be... Well, of course, what happened was you end up with 10,000 denominations plus tons of non-denominations, right? But they thought, that's what... So people said, anyway, we all just believe the Bible. But you start poking holes in what they actually think when you start saying, well, you're reading the Bible to say that slavery is okay because it exists in the world, in the Greco-Roman world, but it's not okay. It's not okay in the larger ethic of love, the larger ethic of it's not. And so, so she argues that we started poking holes right there in sola scriptura then. For some of our traditions, we've continued to poke those holes. So in my tradition, talking about the expansiveness of human sexuality is a good inroad because we already do a lot of things that other people still think is heretical. Like, we already have women pastors, Now, in the Southern Baptist Church right now, your best inroad to defeating patriarchy is getting women into leadership. Then you can talk about the broader aspect of human sexuality later. But so they're still poking those holes. My tradition is a little further along. There are other traditions that have already settled the human sexuality debate, and they've said to me, what we've realized is we're still wrestling with the racism that's in our culture, and that is the thing. And so there are different places where you might poke holes and help move things along past this patriarchal religious milieu we seem to
How
live
do you
in.
do it?
Well, I think there's a question back there.
Yeah, I'll come to him.
Okay,
How
you
do
sure?
you do it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How do I do it?
Yeah. Well, you show up.
I show up.
You were
I simply
brave enough to be on TV.
Well, I simply talk to people. I respect people as humans. I go where I'm asked to go and meet people across spectrums. I'm not afraid to say what I think and also claim to be Christian. That's one of the. It's right now. I think it's especially in the Bible Belt. It can be hard both to say I'm a Christian and I also may believe in women's rights. I mean, that seems weird to say, but it is weird. There are a lot of circles I might run in, or it might come into question. And crazily enough, my first job was at Planned Parenthood of Middle and East Tennessee, working with youth doing teen theater and talking about difficult teen issues. And in that work, I also had to work the phone sometimes at the clinic. And I always say that anybody that works in a church should have to work the phones at an abortion clinic just once. And their perspective on reproductive health will completely change. But I can't believe I live in a world today. I can't believe I grew up in what I thought of, because I grew up around here. I was told this was the Athens of the South. And now I've got two daughters that are teenage, and they have very little access to reproductive health, and it just hurts me. And my daughters talk about moving away, not wanting to stay in the South. I'm like, I'm okay with that. but I'm fighting for things to be different here. And so I think that's what I do. I show up, and I'm a good Christian. I pray about it. Not that I think
Bless
you can.
your heart.
Yeah. But not that I think. I mean, I do think our most effective prayers are the ones that we put our feet to. Our hands and feet to. So if we're going to look at everybody as human, right? We need to remember that maybe just maybe those people aren't as infantile as we think. Now, I profoundly disagree with, I've lived in more rural parts of Tennessee before, and I felt like there were many people around me voting against their interests, right? And so people will say, well, why does that happen? Well, so I think it's because people are complex. And I think it's because, and this is not a knock at you, bringing up the rational side of things. I think we could all do with a much higher dose of rationality in our culture right now, and a lot more critical thinking. I think one of the worst things that's happened in our culture is that we do less and less teaching about critical thinking in general, in all facets of the world, including in school, where it's becoming more and more about meeting certain goals and things like, that kind of stuff. But I also one thing I've come to believe about humanity is not completely rational and never will be. We have a side of us that is feeling, that is emotional, and that is where I think, as much of anything, what you're dealing with when a lot of people are afraid of something like the replacement theory is it's an emotional, it's a lizard brain reaction. It's not, and so there is an aspect of teaching people to think more critically, but there's also, I think, an aspect of I think we're in an era of profound mental health struggles. I think we are in a profound era of lack of emotional intelligence as well, and so I think one of the things we have to all do together, no matter what it is we think, is to be able to figure out a way to get back into our hearts a bit. I think in the worst types of Christianity, I think, are often Christianities that are so up here that they become tools of that can be used easily to dominate. For instance, I think John Calvin was a brilliant man. I think his systematic theology was brilliant because he took all these things and believed certain tenets about God, and he said, well, if I believe this, and I believe this, I believe this, it has to go this way. And there's no way to rationally get anywhere else than that some people are already destined by God to go to heaven, and some are double predestined to go to hell. Because God has to be completely sovereign, and God has to have all the power. And if that's the case, then that's the way it has to work. But if you really think about it, that's a very rational way to figure out who God is and how God works. And I think most people are resonating more with the in here, And so one of the tools I use, Calais, to help people is to, especially in my context where a lot of people are strong believers in science and struggle with how do I even accept that I still kind of have a faith of some kind, or I still kind of feel spiritual, but I'm also drawn to science, this kind of stuff. There are theologians today talking about, are there new ways? Have we thought about God wrong? Have we talked about God wrong? Is the way we've talked about God put Christianity on the ground the wrong way? So for instance, if I think God is completely sovereign and controls everybody like a puppet, that takes any responsibility away from me. Also, that makes God and this is, you probably know this from the philosophical arguments, but that makes God the great perpetrator of evil. I mean, really, because if God is controlling everything, then God is also controlling all the evil. So there are people now working, like one of my favorite Wesleyan theologians, who's actually he's not a Methodist, he's a Nazarene, but we'll forgive him that. He's really not a Nazarene anymore, though, because the Nazarenes decided he was a heretic, and they just threw him out of the church. They'd already ejected him from his teaching position, but now that he just went on trial and got thrown out of his church this year.
Another homeless.
That's right. He's another homeless Christian, and he leans into open and relational theology. But he says that instead of thinking of an omnipotent God, that we need to think of an amipotent God, an all loving. Ami, as in love. Yes, as in amor. Yes. So, and he is developing a systematic theology for people that have deconstructed and have nothing to put their arms back around if they still feel drawn to the spiritual. And so he's thinking of different ways of talking about the mysteries of faith alongside the emerging mysteries of science, like the fact that when you get down to the quantum level, things don't always behave the way we thought they would, And so scientists are starting to get sort of mystified too.
That's right.
And so he does some interesting stuff with the way he thinks about that God works more in a wooing way, wooing us towards the ways God would have us be, but that often we don't cooperate, and also even the creation doesn't cooperate. I love that way of thinking.
Yeah.
That's how he explains. That's how he explains cancer, as opposed to that God just lets it happen or can't do anything about it. But what? So anyway, I don't want to get way down into that. Those are the kinds of theologies I'm trying to introduce my people to just say, hey, you don't know this, but you've inherited one way to think about God. So if you do believe in God, and if you plan to continue to be a Christian, there are other ways to think about God.
So when I do EQ and critical thinking, the first thing to do is own your own oddities. Right. So I used to introduce hi everybody, I'm racist, sexist. Yeah. That's how I start. So to own, I still, like I was sharing with you earlier, I still believe if I watched Roger Federer play, he'll lose. I have no basis for it. I believe it. If I cleaned up and fixed my car, it will break down.
Yep.
It's as stupid as it can get, but I truly believe it. So I try not to clean it up. I mean, this is for real. I think me owning my oddities and strangeness helps me call out somebody else's.
Yes.
And call out gently, like I've gotten it, you haven't. No, I got some shit too, but you got a shit right there.
Right.
And that seemed to, students like it. Like all of us have it, the most rational person. You're talking about science. Francis Bacon wrote about his stuff, about science, in 1500s. It's been so long and at some level that for us to wrap our head around this scientific thinking. And kids get it. I think they get it when the TikTok has taken on, there's different social media has taken on, everybody's got a platform, plays. So that's my thought on critical thinking. Let's do more questions. Other thoughts?
Just stand up, sorry.
Yeah.
One thing was that I left all of the religion behind after my divorce from my wife, who was a Southern Baptist preacher's daughter. Oh God, don't ever do that. Anyway, since in all that time, I've only been to a few churches, some United Methodist. One time at United Methodist and United, what is that, Universal?
Unitarian Universalist Church?
Yeah, but United Methodist near my alma mater, Belmont.
Okay, yeah.
That one had a memorial service for Anwar Sadat.
Wow.
When he was murdered. And I felt that so strongly. I wanted to go, and I didn't know what to expect, because I know what to expect at a Baptist church. Where's your church home? And I didn't get any of that. They didn't bother me. They left me alone. And, I was alone with my feelings. And I thank you for United Methodist. But the real quick thing, when my mother married my father, she was raised Church of Christ. And he was a Southern Baptist. So she changed to Southern Baptist. Her mother told her, you're going to hell, because only Church of Christ are going to heaven. And that's the problem with Christian nationalism, because once they get their foot on top of Jewish people and gay people and all these undesirables, then they can't agree. And that's weaponizing.
Yes, if your goal is to convert every single person to be just like you, no matter where you're coming from, whether you're an atheist or some kind of religionist or anything else, if your goal is to convert everybody to be just like you, you're going to do damage, and it's going to be harmful. Because we are humans, and humans are a broad spectrum of beings, and so that's where, in my way of thinking about my faith, I lean on several things. One, you talked about oddities. I mean, I kind of think of my faith as an oddity. It's something that that I have. The Bible calls faith a gift. That's one of the ways one of the biblical writers talks about it, a gift. And so it's not something that, there are a lot of people out there that are trying to work so hard at their faith, trying to make, I'm going to prove I'm right. And they feel like they got to defend God too. I mean, if I really believe God is anything that I believe, whether I think God's all powerful or whatever, but if I think God's beyond me and something different than humanity and then whatever, even if it's a part of creation, I can't defend. I mean, how am I going to, that's not me to defend God. God can defend God's self, That's not something I'm worried about. So I think of faith as a gift, and then I also think of the fact that in the Gospels, we're told to be yeast like leaven in the bread.
Okay.
So to me, the message of Jesus, or at least what Jesus was inviting his followers to do, was not to go out into the world and make everybody just like you. It was go out in the world and spread this message, go out in the world and talk about God, and invite people to join us in this life. But I don't see anywhere that in my reading that Jesus says, go out and force everybody into this life and go out and make everybody just like us. I just don't see that. Now, I understand that the church has done that time and time again. I understand that one of the profound existential crises in early Christendom was the fact that the first Christians were actually still Jews. Right, so the first Christians are actually still Jews. It was a movement within Judaism, and there was a fight. First of all, can Gentiles be a part of this? So who's in, who's out already started to become an issue. And then you had this profound thing that happened to all of Judaism, which was the destruction of the temple in 70 CE. And so when the temple was destroyed, both Judaism and Christianity, emerging Christianity, had to learn how to exist in a new way. So Judaism evolved into rabbinic Judaism. It was no longer based around one central location. It was everywhere. You could do it wherever you went. Not that synagogues had already been developed before that, but then it truly became a diaspora religion. Same thing happened with Christianity. It starts trying to find its place in the world, and it starts doing its thing wherever it can, in different towns, different cities, different homes. But they expected Jesus to come back. When the first generation of Christians started dying off, they had to figure out, well, what the hell do we do? And that's when they had to start saying what they believe, how they're going to live together. And that stuff developed over time, and it wasn't perfect. And in fact, I would argue that some of the things that crept into both the later Christian writings and then also into the way Christian lived were things like Roman household codes that weren't necessarily rooted in, they were cultural as much as they were rooted in anything related to a spiritual thing. And that's why I talk about Christianities today too, because I think really all Christianities, just like all things, are inextricably linked to their culture in some way. Yes. There's nothing that's purely extracted from its culture. There's no way to get to pure spirit if you're a spiritualist. There's no way to get to pure rationality if you're a rationalist. You're always stuck in your culture in some way. And so as Christianity became enculturated in that early existential crisis and started defining itself, there were certain things about it that were great. It kind of took a universalizing approach in terms of anybody can be welcome and this kind of stuff. But it also kind of developed dogmas over time about who Jesus was, why you have to follow Jesus, why you've got to be a Christian. And then as people were fighting for power, that intersected with religion. The worst thing that happened to Christianity probably was that in its first 300 years, it was a religion of the margins. And then
That's the
it became
and all
a religion of the empire. And that changed everything.
Constantinople.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Nice. Last thought.
Yep, last thought.
Do you have a last thought?
Oh, do I have a last thought?
Yeah. Because you knew you were going to come see us some time ago, and then we were really curious about Christian nationalism.
Well, I feel like I didn't talk enough about Christian nationalism.
It's okay.
But
I've got a couple of quick questions.
yeah, go for it.
Are you
Yeah.
interested in talking with people of other faith, non-believers, atheists?
Sure, sure.
Because believe it or not, we actually think about religious topics and issues and get more into Scripture than most believers that we run across.
Well, most people don't read today, so when people say they follow the Bible, I'm like, do you read it?
These are the things that you've been talking about.
They want it in the school. It's got rape all over. It's like, what are you talking about?
Things
Anyway.
you've been talking about,
Yeah.
things that we're passionate about,
Right.
that we spend a lot of our time and gather for conversations about with Christians when we can get them to engage in the conversations. But yeah, if you're open to any of that, then
Yeah, I have his
Oh, yeah.
contact.
we can
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'd love to get together with you again and spend a lot of time, really get
Like back and forth questions. Yeah.
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I know where he lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other dying questions? Yes.
Yeah.
Quick, do you consider this to be a cultural inroad for Christians to embrace the mystery of the cross and take a more hands-off approach to power, casting off power because of the political exhaustion?
That is a good. I've not thought about it in framing it that way, but I think yes, it is.
Yeah.
I think this is a time. I think this is a time where either Christianity needs to die, or people need to reimagine their faith and get back to thinking about it in a new way. Yeah. I think yes, it needs to be revitalized, but not in the way that these people are talking about, which is to take over the whole culture, but revitalized so that it doesn't, in the end, become a parody of exactly what it was not meant to be, and end up hurting people in the process.
That's how we connected too when I talked about this group. And he said, "I'm a humanist too."
I would say I know that there's a lot of debate around the term humanism, and some people don't believe Christian humanism can exist. I do think, though, that I do know that humanism does have proponents that are Christian. And also, as humanism developed, you could say one of the early Christian humanists was Erasmus, right before the time of Luther. I'm somewhat of an Erasmusian, whatever you want to say. Yeah, in that line of thing. I'm a critically thinking Christian who also claims the mystery of faith.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So I think minus all the books, if you're a human, I can tap into your humanity.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
matter who you are.
And if you want to say minus all the books, I mean, if you really want to take the Bible seriously, and if you really, really want to take it literally, the beginning of the book of John says that the Word of God is Jesus and is not a book. Jesus did not promise his followers a book. He promised them the Spirit. That's a very different thing.
That's a good way to...
But that is not, Jesus did not say, and when I leave, somebody's going to write down the next part of the book that you need to read. He said, you will be visited by another companion, the Spirit.
I believe Jesus was a humanist.
Yeah. And he also said, you will do greater things than I did. I mean, it says that in the text. And it's like...
Not being able to walk on water, though.
I know, right? But have you tried, though? Yeah.
What church do you...
East End United Methodist.
I have all his contact.
And
solid contact.
We're in East Nashville. We lost our church building to the tornado in 2020, and we've been trying to rebuild for 4 years, but FEMA did not give us enough money to supplement what we raised on our own and then also got from insurance. So we actually just rebought our mother church building that was owned by a developer who was just sitting on it, and it's like 6 blocks away, and it's this beautiful 1893 sanctuary.
To buy his church.
And we're just about to start renovating it and trying to turn it into our new home. So we're kind of learning what it is to reimagine ourselves right now.
And are you
do you have a question?
I'm the head pastor.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a question, Ron?
Yes.
Yeah.
You, sir, are a liberal Christian. Are you afraid in your own congregation to refer to yourself as a liberal?
I'm not afraid to, because most of my congregation is liberal, probably in some way, although I will tell you that my congregation runs the gamut, just like any group of people does. But I struggle a bit saying liberal Christian, not because I'm afraid, because I don't like putting liberal and conservative onto the Christian moniker so much because of what they mean in our culture today. They are such political labels now that they don't even have a lot of meaning other than that you're left wing or right wing, and so people hear that and they immediately hear politics. So sometimes I say progressive Christian. It still has a political sound to it though. So I like to just kind of say open and affirming. I think that's more helpful, and it also provides space for people that may not consider themselves liberal, but may still be open to dialogue, and so I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to say. I would say in general. If you compare me to many people in the South, I am liberal, and I would say my politics lean liberal. But I would not. I struggle putting it on Christianity just because I think it kind of muddy.
It's a dirty word. It's a dirty word.
It's not that it's dirty.
But in Christianity,
it is.
in the South,
no,
I was a liberal
I agree
Northern
with you there.
Catholic, and I came down here and I found out it's a dirty word here.
You are right about that. You're right about that. But it doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me. I'm not scared of it. But I think also like liberal Christianity, just like classical liberalism in politics. Classical liberalism in theology is what opened the door to critical thinking around Scripture. So, I'm just careful with those terms because I know they carry multiple meanings.
The epistemologists in town
That's
will
right.
tell you any word somebody throws at you.
Right.
Yeah, come on through. Any word somebody throws at you, you can go through. You're fine. You're fine. Any word somebody throws at me, the first thing I ask is, define it how you understand it. I'll define it the way I've understood, and then we'll do the talking. Let's not figure it out in the end. All right, so we need to mind time. So a couple of thoughts, a couple of gratitudes. What you got out of it, right? And you don't respond back this time. It's hard. You just what they got out of it.
I got it.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll commend you because I don't know how you've done it, but somehow a pastor came in and made a fan of from a bunch of atheists and humans. And I really look forward to seeing you again and hearing your thoughts on some things and stuff.
Nice.
I didn't think that was something that was possible, but somehow you did it. So
I appreciate that.
That's the Methodist.
Breathe. Keep breathing.
I was gonna say, I knew when you said you were United Methodist, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like this guy. there was a lot of stuff that you said that I think for me is I think going to be some of the stuff that really is helpful for pushing back against this political agenda that a lot of us, that doesn't matter whether we're believers or not, we're all on the same page there. And I think where you're coming from and the stuff that you must be saying to your congregation on a regular basis, that is on the front lines of it, and I greatly appreciate that. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
One more.
Well, I just thought it's refreshing, as a spirit struggles to find its place in a materialist world, to find someone from your camp that's willing to first acknowledge that, but to actively search for, the place, in the world. It's like a poetic vehicle for man's relation to itself. So I thank you.
Thank you.
Nice. So we'll do a song, and then you're always welcome, and you can invite any one of those amazing people to your church, and I'll happily come.
well, I'm sure it's open to the public, so we can just show up.
That's right. You can show up whenever you want.
There you go.
That's right.
I'll do Sunday school.
We have shirts that say "all means all," so you can walk right in. That's right. Yep.
Take a row in the back. And
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Come on in. I'm sure you'd find some other hecklers back there
So
with you.
we're going to sign on after this. Yes, and this is our.
Be looking for your lyrics for Imagine if you don't know them already. And while you're looking them up, let's just do this chorus. Lord, prepare me. Just kidding. Got your lyrics ready? Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Hope someday you'll join us. What are you doing? And the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
Go, Brandon!
Oh, I said that at a cough shop recently. I was like, why did I say that?